When my uncle sent me that video, a sudden tilt occurred in my world. There they were, my parents and my brother Thomas, around our familiar kitchen table in Phoenix. They talked about me as if I was merely a burden. The Arizona sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow that felt sarcastically contrary to their cold words. "Lindsay only helps because she owes us," my mother said, her voice dripping with disdain. "After all we've done for her, paying the mortgage is the least she can do." My brother Thomas smirked and added, "Yeah, and she acts like she's doing us a big favor." What a joke! The most painful part was my father simply nodding in assent. The man who taught me to ride a bike and helped with my math was now allowing this discussion. The video was shaky, secretly recorded, but their words were painfully clear. I watched it thrice, each viewing blending numbness with a sharp clarity. Over the past 4 years I had been making substantial payments on their mortgage through my LLC, Divine Investments. They believed they were paying a bank, never caring to read the fine details of an arrangement my financial advisor had orchestrated. Each month they contributed minimally while I took care of the larger payments. All the while they grumbled about my negligible help. Uncle Jason's message followed soon after. "You needed to see this, Lindsay." I couldn't stay silent anymore. They've been talking like this for months. Sitting in my office, I stared at the spreadsheets, each payment a testament to over $200,000 invested in keeping them comfortable in their house. My hands were unexpectedly steady as I reviewed the mortgage agreement's purchase option clause, recalling how my financial advisor had insisted on including it just in case. The next payment was due in 2 weeks, and for once I knew precisely what to do. I sent a message to my uncle. "Thank you for revealing the truth. Don't worry, they won't know you sent this, but change is coming." I had always been their safety net, though they would never admit it. 4 years earlier, when the housing market in Phoenix collapsed, I intervened as they were about to lose their home. At 27, successful as a software development manager, the irony was sharp. They never approved of my career choice and wanted me to take over my father's struggling real estate business. "Software is no career for a woman," my mother would say, disapproval clear while praising Thomas for his real business sense. Yet Thomas nearly bankrupted the family company within 2 years. When they needed mortgage help, I consulted my advisor, Kate. She suggested creating an LLC, buying the house through it, letting them think a bank was in charge to maintain their dignity. The arrangement was perfect at the time, protecting them and keeping their pride intact while I supplemented payments. Divine Investments LLC became the mortgage holder, and I covered their monthly dues without their knowledge. Uncle Jason was the only one aware, having overheard a conversation between Kate and me. "You're too good to them, Lindsay," he mentioned once. "They don't deserve your kindness." I defended them. They were family, after all. Despite disagreements, they'd always provided a home. Now, after watching the video a 4th time, clarity struck. Their words echoed continually in my mind. "She owes us. What a joke. The least she can do." Each phrase felt like a twisting knife as I opened my laptop, logged into the LLC's account, and noticed the next mortgage payment due on the 15th. Despite never missing a payment before, they were now just 2 weeks late with their portion. It was clear how they felt, and I had no intention of covering the shortfall this time. Let them handle the consequences with the bank alone. They were unaware that their useless burden of a daughter was, in fact, their landlord. This realization brought a smile to my face. Sometimes karma requires a nudge. The video wasn't the end. The next day, my Uncle Jason sent additional evidence, screenshots of family group chat messages. I had been deliberately left out of this chat, titled Family Finances, which they had created 6 months ago. Each message felt like a fresh betrayal, sharper than the last. "Lindsay thinks she's so special with her tech job," Thomas had written. "She barely contributes to the mortgage while I'm running Dad's business daily." My mother's reply made my blood run cold. "We should ask her for more money. She's single with no kids. What else does she spend it on? After all we've sacrificed to raise her, she can't even adequately support her family." Looking at my financial records, my hands trembled slightly as I calculated the total over the past 4 years. I had contributed $267,843 towards their mortgage through Divine Investments, while they'd only paid $52,500. Monthly payments to the bank were the primary burden of the mortgage. They had no idea I was covering the extra $5,400 monthly. I phone buzzed a text from my mother. "Sweetie, could you come to dinner this Sunday?" We need to discuss something important. I knew exactly what they wanted to ask for more money, serving up emotional manipulation asides. The thought of sitting there, pretending ignorance of their true feelings towards me, made my stomach churn. I called my financial advisor, Kate. I need to know my options with the purchase agreement. I suspected you might, she replied, unsurprised. Remember that clause we included? If they miss a payment, Divine Investments can exercise the purchase option immediately. The house would be yours outright, and they become month-to-month tenants. A plan started forming. And if they're late on rent? Standard Arizona eviction laws apply. You'd be within your rights to give them notice, she pointed out. Lindsay, are you sure you want this? I thought about the years of condescension, branded as the family hymn while they mocked me behind my back. Thought about Thomas running our father's business into the ground, all while being praised for his business acumen. Thought about every snide remark regarding my career, life choices, and supposed obligations. Yes, I answered, voice steady, but I won't tell them anything. Let them believe everything's normal. I texted my mother back. Of course I'll come to dinner, looking forward to it. The heart emoji was satirical but fitting. After all, they taught me well, sometimes the best revenge is a perfect poker face. With the mortgage payment due in 13 days, for the first time since this arrangement began, I wouldn't be there to catch them. Sunday dinner felt like a test in self-control. I arrived at their Phoenix home precisely at 6. The setting sun painting the desert landscape in shades of orange and purple. Technically, my house looked the same as it always had for the past 20 years. The familiar aroma of my mother's lasagna lingered off in a calculated choice to evoke memories of happier times. Lindsay, sweetheart, my mother exclaimed, rushing to hug me, her designer bracelet catching the light. A new purchase, no doubt, with funds that should have gone toward the mortgage payment due in 9 days. Thomas sat at the dining table, smug in business casual attire. Hey sis, good you could make time for your family, he smirked. I smiled back, recalling his message about my lack of help. If only he knew his entire life still relied on my generosity. I always have time for family, I replied, the irony thick in my throat. My father emerged from his study, making the family complete. Glancing towards my father, my mother began setting the lasagna down on the table. Thomas cleared his throat and started, well, as you know, Dad's business is struggling because the real estate market isn't quite what it once was. My father, with his reading glasses perched on his nose, was meticulously reviewing some papers, bank statements, I guess nearly making me laugh with how seriously they were preparing their pitch. Of course, I replied, serving myself some lasagna. What's on your mind? Despite the Phoenix market being robust, our family's business had encountered hurdles since Thomas took over. While I pondered this, my mother reached across the table, grasping my hand, continuing with, we're so fortunate to have such a successful daughter. We've sacrificed a lot for your education. Her gentle act and a reminder of their sacrifices were all carefully orchestrated. The mortgage payment is quite burdensome, my father said with the authoritative tone designed to make me feel small. I automatically corrected, software development, when they mentioned my computer work, though they never cared to learn the difference. My father waved it off. Right. Perhaps you could assist more with the monthly payments? This is still your family home too, he suggested. Unbeknownst to them, I already contributed over $5,000. They're just asking for an extra $2,000 a month, my mother added swiftly. It's not much given your income. Taking another bite of lasagna, I stayed composed. The nerve of their request was almost impressive. I'll think about it, I finally responded in a neutral tone. Times are uncertain, you know. Thomas scoffed. Uncertain? Please, you're doing fine, unlike some of us, striving to preserve the family legacy. I smiled, knowing the bank's notification would soon inform them of the missed payment. You're right, Thomas, I mused, considering the irony. Sometimes we all get exactly what we deserve. After dinner, excusing myself to use the restroom, I overheard hushed conversations from my father's study. Their voices carried through the ajar door. My heart raced. She's not going to help, Thomas's bitter tone lamented. Did you notice her superiority with her tech salary while we're struggling? Patience, my father countered. We have another option, the investment documents I uncovered from her cloud storage. She's been hiding money in a company called Divine Investments. My blood ran cold, recalling how I'd used their Wi-Fi without a VPN, leading to an automatic cloud sync. It's a thriving LLC, my father continued, rather than aiding us. She's stockpiling money there. We'll give her one more voluntary chance, my mother chimed. If not, I'll remind her of the college funds she took without permission, though we have evidence proving otherwise. Their blackmail attempt was laughably desperate. And if that fails, Thomas added, We could always reach out to her, subtly questioning her mental stability or insinuating theft. Little did they know, I'd borrowed those funds with permission when a tuition check bounced, and had repaid it promptly with interest, documented evidence, and all. Utilizing company resources for personal endeavors was bound to get their attention eventually. The nonchalant way they plotted the destruction of my career sent chills through me. These people weren't family. They were leeches masquerading as family. I silently retreated back to the bathroom, flushed the toilet for show, and then returned to the dining room. They shuffled back in moments later, all wearing practiced smiles. "Lindsay, dear," my mother said sweetly, "have you given any thought to our conversation about helping out more with the mortgage?" I met her gaze with resolve. "Actually, I have. You're right, family should help family. I'll have an answer for you in about 8 days. Planning was deliberate. Their mortgage payment was due in 8 days, and I knew exactly what would occur once they missed it. Divine Investments would unveil its true ownership. 8 days? Thomas frowned, puzzled by the specific time frame. Rising from my seat and gathering my purse, I replied, "Just need to confirm a few things with my financial advisor. You understand, right? It's just good business to be careful with money." I echoed their favorite saying with a smile at Thomas. My mother escorted me to the door, pulling me into a rehearsed hug. "We knew you'd understand, sweetheart. Family always comes first." Yes, I agreed, thinking about the eviction notice I had already prepared. Family always gets exactly what they deserve. Driving home, I called Uncle Jason. "You were right about them," I said when he answered. "But don't worry, I've stopped being a silent partner in their charade. It's time for the final act." The week dragged on painfully slow. My family continued their pressure campaign, inundating me with daily texts about their urgent financial needs. Each message only fortified my determination. I sent everything to Kate, my financial advisor, who was aiding me in gearing up for the unavoidable face-off. "The paperwork is all set," Kate assured me during our meeting 3 days before the payment was due. "Once they miss the payment, Divine Investments can activate its purchase option immediately. I've also prepared the eviction notices just in case." I nodded, examining the documents. "And you're sure it's all legally airtight? They can't contest this?" "They signed off on the agreement 4 years ago," Kate reassured me. "Your father barely skimmed it. He was so desperate. Everything is perfectly valid." That evening my brother took a stab at his own manipulation. "Hey sis," his text read, "I heard from my friend in tech recruitment that some companies are doing layoffs. Must be nerve-wracking for you. Luckily, you have family to support you. Speaking of which, about that help we discussed." The attempt was so blatantly obvious it was almost laughable. I showed the message to Uncle Jason over coffee the following day. "They never change," he commented with a shake of the head. "Your aunt and I saw them pull this with everyone in the family, which is why we distanced ourselves long ago. Did you know they rifled through my files when I visited?" I asked, not surprised. "They did the same to your cousin last year. They're always searching for leverage." He paused, asking, "Are you prepared for the fallout?" "They won't take this well. I thought of their threats to contact my companies, their blackmail schemes, their years of taking advantage of my help while ridiculing me in private." "I'm ready," I said firmly. "They chose their actions. Now they'll face the consequences." 2 days before the payment deadline, my mother called. "Lindsay, dear, we need your decision on the mortgage assistance. Times are tough and family has to stick together." "Don't worry, Mom," I replied with steady composure. "Everything will be clarified very soon." That night, an email from the family's bank appeared in my inbox. They had attempted a transfer to Divine Investments, but the payment bounced. Their account was already overdrawn. Forwarded the email to Kate. "Here we go," she replied. "Want me to initiate proceedings tomorrow?" I recalled the smug faces at the lasagna dinner, their casual. As I contemplated the looming threat to my career, I reflected on the years of manipulation, the incessant demands, and the unceasing lack of gratitude. "No," I typed back, "let us wait until their payment officially fails. Let them spend the next 2 days believing that everything is fine. They have taught me well that timing is everything." I then opened my laptop and started drafting an email to my company's HR department, documenting my family's threats and including the evidence Uncle Jason had gathered. Being proactive was key to countering any potential attacks from them. The path to resolution was visible, and I intended to leave no stone unturned. Sometimes, I muttered to myself, the best revenge is simply letting people face the ramifications of their own actions. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, the deadline passed, and Divine Investments' automated system dispatched its default notice. I watched my phone, counting down the seconds to the inevitable call. Exactly 12 minutes later, Lindsay, my mother's frantic voice, came through. Something's wrong with our mortgage payment. The bank says we defaulted, but that's impossible. We need your help immediately. Actually, I replied calmly, Divine Investments isn't a bank. It's an LLC, my LLC to be exact. The silence on the line was overwhelming. Check your email, I finally advised her. You'll find a notice stating that due to your default, Divine Investments is exercising its purchase option. The house is legally mine now. Your status has changed to month-to-month tenants. This is a joke, she stammered. No joke, I clarified. I've been shouldering most of your mortgage for 4 years while you ridiculed me behind my back, labeled me a burden, schemed to blackmail me, and threatened my career. How did you? Uncle Jason showed me everything, I interrupted, including the video. Now, regarding your tenancy, your first rent payment is due in 30 days. I suggest you start looking for alternative living arrangements. My father's voice suddenly interjected. They had put me on speakerphone. You ungrateful. Careful, I cut him off. Is that any way to speak to your landlord? The eviction notice is prepared. Don't force my hand to serve it sooner than planned. I ended the call and blocked their numbers. Within minutes, emails flooded in from distant relatives and family friends, urging me that family should forgive family and accusing me of cruelty. I deleted them all unread. Some debts cannot be settled with forgiveness. 3 months later, I stood in the empty house, my footsteps echoing through the vacant rooms. My family had finally moved out the previous week, forced to downsize to an apartment across town. They tried everything: threats, guilt trips, legal challenges, but the documents were ironclad, leaving them no option but to accept the truth. Thomas' attempt to reach out to my company backfired thanks to my preemptive documentation and Uncle Jason's evidence. His allegations were dismissed outright. Instead, his actions led to an ethics probe by his real estate board, ultimately ending his career. My mother made one final attempt at manipulation through a tear-filled voicemail. How could you do this to your own family? The answer was simple. They had shown me what family meant to them, and I had finally come to believe it. I walked through the kitchen, the very place where it all began, where they labeled me worthless even as I footed their bills. The irony was not lost on me. Uncle Jason and his wife were joining me later to help prepare the house for sale. The proceeds would go towards establishing a foundation to aid victims of financial abuse. Something good would come from all of this. My phone buzzed with a text from Kate. Just heard from their lawyer. They're finally signing the last papers. It's really over. I smiled, glancing around the empty house one last time. They taught me that family always comes first, but they never specified which family. I chose myself, and for the first time in years, it felt absolutely right.